welcome back to the second episode of the Hideaway Podcast. My name is Winfield Jones. I'm joined here by my friends Andy Shade. Say hi, Andy.
What's up?
And JP Fry.
What's good today?
We missed a week. That was because we all forgot that we were doing a podcast.
We're also lazy.
It happens to the best of us.
You know how it is. We're all stuck inside. We all forget what day it is. Got to keep those schedules, but none of us are. And today we're going to be talking along a little bit more lighthearted lines. First, it's still serious. We're going to be talking in the first half about college and what it's like to be a prospective college student in the upcoming years, kind of giving our experiences as well. It's a crazy time to be a student, not only because of the coronavirus, but because the job market is changing very rapidly. One of the main things I've been noticing in the past couple of years is that you're starting to see a lot of tech companies and a lot of major companies not really caring about where you get your degree or what your degree is, even if you do get a degree. I was talking with a rep from a big tech company, not going to name him, but he's in charge of a huge application that many people use, including myself. And he said, yeah, it doesn't matter where you come from or what you did, as long as you can show that you did the work. And I don't know about you guys, Andy and JP, but that's like, to me, that's a huge difference from what I think our parents have signaled.
Absolutely. It's
100%.
It drives such a change. It's not a very traditional way of doing things. So if that's the future, that might
You
be the
say
way it's
traditional
going.
like it's a good thing.
It's not. It's weird. It's like really crazy to think that like everybody had the 4 years. Like it's just expected to go to college for 4 years, especially now that we're paying most colleges. I don't even want to know how much I'm paying. I am a year.
Do you not know how much you're paying?
I do, but I don't want to think about it.
I get that.
For
I
example,
get that.
Without a scholarship or without any financial aid, my school costs a base price of $72,000 a year.
Oh my God.
That's without any financial aid and no scholarships. Not many students come in without either of those two, but if you were to not come in, you would just be, by the time you left, you'd be screwed. Like you'd be done.
That's a lot.
It's something crazy that you have to, basically everyone now has financial aid and scholarships. Like usually you think of those as like those people who have like really excelled or really earned it or need the extra help. But now everybody needs the extra help. It's not the fringe case anymore. It's the
mass population needs it.
It's everyone, like dude.
It's a necessity now. It's almost like, why even make it that expensive in the first place just to give scholarships and merit-based stuff and all to everyone, basically? It's kind of weird.
But along the lines of, so college is obviously ridiculously expensive. Especially a 4-year. I believe we're all private institutions.
Yes.
You'll have to correct me if you're wrong, if I'm wrong on that. But that brings us into, what are your other choices besides paying out that much money that, as Winfield said earlier, we might not actually need to do? If you're trying to go into a big tech company, you might not need to pay out $72,000 a year.
Yeah, it's like, what are the other options? That's actually something that I'm looking at myself. At this moment, I was actually having a conversation with one of my professors right before this podcast. She's the one that gets paid because I'm there, right? She said to me, not everybody needs school. Are you thinking about doing something else? And personally myself, you guys have known that, but I'm looking for jobs and ways to work experience, just getting internships and working in that way. It's definitely like Andy said, a non-traditional route, and it's definitely going to be harder to kind of I guess nowadays you're not really putting yourself at much of a disadvantage. You just have more to prove.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think kind of going along those lines, especially like with all the stuff going on like now and coronavirus and stuff like that, just finding an internship, I can tell you this from my experience, is impossible at this point. I mean,
I've applied to, I think it's like 75 at this point. God. I've had some interviews lined up.
That's good.
Comes back, they go, "Oh, well, we're canceling our
Yeah.
internship program this summer due to the virus."
Yeah,
I'm
I had
just
the
like,
same
"Well, I
things.
got what am I gonna do? I got no idea."
Yeah, that's tough. And I think that this is going to persist probably for another 6+ months. Be
Really?
be thankful that you're not graduating in May because you'd be going into the deep
Dude,
end
I
as
Yeah, you'd
a
be
as a
having a fun
college
time.
student. It doesn't even matter what profession you're pursuing. That would just be really tough. So I think
Grocery
that
store manager, I'm telling you, grocery
yeah,
store
there it
manager.
is. That's it. So I don't know. This is a tough time to be looking for a job, and a lot of people are. So
yeah, and like to add on top of like how hard it is to get a job and how strained people are. Like I have a friend back in Bend. I just talked with her for the first time in a while a couple days ago, and she said her rent had actually gone up. She's now paying $1,600 a month for this small apartment, and she works as a baker. She cannot pay $1,600 a month, and
yeah, it's
we're
tough.
dealing with a crazy market like going into this. It's yeah, I like you said, Andy. I feel really bad for those graduating this year. I'm glad I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
really
we're
glad I'm
lucky.
not.
We are
Um,
lucky, honestly.
I think the people who do graduate this semester should be given like a little star next to their name or something in a system. Yeah,
Asterisk.
like just be like, yo, these guys went through a lot and they persevered and they got it done.
They got their
Uh,
diploma emailed to
yeah,
them.
it's like that takes a lot of work, and you should get special. Like anybody who is able to accomplish something like that in such a crazy time should be given recognition for that. Uh,
For me, it has come through my head. However, with that stated, that was not something that was really acceptable in my family. If I had it my way, would I have gone and spent all of this money? No, probably not. I probably would have specialized in something and then, made money that way. But in at least my family, it's seen as an important thing to go to college and to have that experience and to get that degree because it's useful to have the degree and you can still do what you want to like do afterwards, but it's important to have the degree because then you have it and you never know when that can be useful. But I
Yeah,
did think about it. It was a thought because it does hurt spending. I mean, by the end of when I'm done, I'll probably spend close to $250,000 on an
yeah.
education,
No, me too.
which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it is. Winfield can attest to this because we both went to the same high school, but the high school Winfield and I went to was pretty rigorous to the point where it was almost an obligation that you would go to college. Like you met with your post high school counselor person, you met with all those college reps, and the high school put that in front of you as like your main choice. And honestly, it was really that was the choice that you had. I think Winfield, you'd agree with me there.
That's really interesting because I know you two went to the same school, but I'm from New Hampshire. I live in the middle of nowhere. I went to a school that was very different from that. My high school counselor, she told me, you can go to University of New Hampshire, which is like the public school or public college in New Hampshire, or you could join the military. And like, I'm a small little dude, and the military would not have fit
yeah,
at
not at all.
all, which is hilarious. And I talked to some of my friends, and she recommends that to everybody.
Hmm.
But
That's
one really
tough.
nice thing about our school is that they had something called the Cheshire Career Center.
Mm.
And so that focused on a bunch of different things. Like and it took all the high schools in the region and bus kids into this place called the Cheshire Career Center. And you could work on stuff like cosmetology, which is like hair and I think hair and beauty stuff, woodworking, electrician. They had fire science. So if you want to become a firefighter,
Oh, dope.
they had a bunch of classes for you. They had a fireproof room that they literally lit
That's
fires
pretty
in
cool.
That's so
and
cool.
put
That's
them out.
cool.
It's so cool. When they had these special days where like I was up in my AP chemistry class and they brought in all the fire trucks for these kids, and part of becoming a firefighter is getting sprayed with the hose. And so they have 50 of these kids outside, and they got the firefighters on the hose just spraying these kids down with the hose.
Jesus.
But like
Yeah.
my school, college wasn't necessarily encouraged because they encouraged a lot of other paths, and they gave kids the opportunity to go down those paths. We had a full restaurant and kitchen, so if kids wanted to like learn how to
That's
run a restaurant, they could literally
so
go take
cool.
a class and do
Yeah,
it,
that's really cool.
which is really neat. And that's where like Winfield, you're into coding and stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Computer science. They had 3 computer science professors that taught these kids how to do
What?
everything.
That's
So you
so
could go out
awesome.
and you could just so I took a bunch of computer science courses when I was in high school.
Mhm.
So I thought that's what I wanted to do. I really enjoyed them, but I still went to college anyways. And then I took them in college, and guess what? It's the same thing I had already learned in high school.
Mhm.
And so I
Yeah.
really like if I actually wanted to go into it, I wouldn't have needed to go to college for it, which was really cool. And
Yeah.
the high school I went to gave a lot of opportunities for kids that weren't necessarily going to college.
Along the lines of coding, like college is like definitely you would learn more advanced stuff, and
Eventually, yeah.
eventually. But like the base stuff to get a job as a developer, like an entry level developer, like you can learn that, and that like you could learn that where you were, and then all the other stuff is basically Googling it. Like that's how I learned how to program. That's how I learned most things nowadays. That's like it's just like Googling stuff. Like Andy and I make a joke all the time about our physics teacher in high school. I didn't learn a single thing from that physics teacher.
Oh, absolutely not.
But how I did learn anything about physics was through Google. It's like its own, like, yeah, it's like people always warn you. They're like, people can put anything on the internet, but it's a skill that a lot of young people are developing to be able to figure out what's real and reputable and what's not.
No,
It is a
yeah.
skill.
It's
and
a skill, especially for me being a history major and stuff like that, writing papers and stuff, finding online sources and anything like that along those lines. It's like you have to find the sources that are trustworthy, realistic, and like actually have been proven to be fact. And like Winfield said, like there's a ton of stuff on the internet that's like BS and stuff like that. But if you can successfully like are able to whittle down stuff that you need to find and find sites that are like effective and what you need to find, like you can even reuse those sites, and it's a lot easier to write papers and get stuff from that.
So I know we talked a lot about like what are the other options besides college, but let's say you want to go to college and you're still stuck at what to do.
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to know what your processes were about deciding which college to go to. Like, did you tour them? Did you not tour them? Did you just apply to one school and said, "This is the school I'm going to"? Like,
That's bold.
my dad did that. He was from California. He applied to one school. He got in, and he went there. And guess what? He was miserable. So,
Yeah, that's tough.
Shady, why don't you give us your college search experience?
I like to think it's standard, but you never know. I applied to 8, 9 schools, I think.
It's pretty standard. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember the number. They were all over the country. Some in the East Coast, some out in the Midwest, and some out in the West Coast. So obviously I applied to all of them. And I visited them too as well as I was applying to them even before I got in. To show like interest and let them know that this is a potential school I want to go to, stuff like that. And then obviously when I got into the colleges, I started with a real like final decision of like, oh, I like this school over this school, or oh, this school's offering me a scholarship or something like that over this school. So you gotta like weigh your options after that. And then I whittled it down to about 3, did like their mid student days and stuff like that. And then eventually I just decided based on like what I want to do in my career path and stuff like that. So
It's like, yeah, like you said, it actually is a pretty standard thing from what I understand. My path was a little weird. As I've kind of alluded to, I'm not very happy about school, being in school. And I most certainly wasn't back in when I was looking for colleges. So
He was a miserable human being.
I generally am.
I'm kidding.
Except you're not kidding. That's the thing.
But my thing was back in 2016, I was lucky enough to go to Apple's WWDC conference, and somehow I got sucked into all the student stuff that they had there. So you got to like have sessions with designers and engineers and all those people, and they would like they're some of the nicest people I've ever met. But there was one woman who was a designer for Apple, and I was just talking about what I like doing and what I was interested in, and she told me to look up a book, and it was a book called The Design of Everyday Things. It is my Bible. And so I looked that up, and I kind of went down the path of like what Don Norman has done. He actually worked at as a professor he ended up working at Apple, but then was a professor for a really long time, had his own design firm, then worked at Northwestern, and now works in the University of San Diego, question mark. But he kind of was the father of what my first major was, and that was human-centered computing, more widely known as human-centered interaction or design. And only a couple schools had that. So I applied to the schools that kind of had one. It was like Purdue and RIT, and I also tried to go to Santa Clara. I applied to probably 5 schools.
Is Santa Clara the University of California, Santa Clara?
No,
or is it
Santa Clara
one?
University.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right in the heart of Santa Clara, and it's a beautiful campus. So RIT, I got accepted to a couple places, but RIT had like a brand new major for human-centered computing, and it would be cool to kind of like, I thought it'd be cool to kind of step into that new major and kind of be one of the first people to come out of RIT with it. Little did I know is that it being such a new major, no one really knew what they were doing yet. So I ended up transferring majors.
And at RIT, that's no small task, is it? Transferring majors.
I think, yeah, it is a way weirder thing to do at RIT. RIT has this really antiquated thing where they make you pick a major before you even get in, like you get to the school your freshman year. So
going to my college experience, I mean I had pretty much the same thing as Andy did. Like,
yeah,
I applied to a bunch of schools. I toured all of them. The ones I got accepted to, I went back to their accepted students days and then toured them again to see what I thought.
yeah,
And I also got accepted to RIT.
yeah,
And when I got there to that accepted students day, I liked it at first
yeah.
until they got to the major stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was very difficult to change your mind if you had to. And that's probably the only reason that I actually did not go there.
Yeah.
Is because changing your mind was tough, and you had a set of classes that you had to take to complete the major.
Mm-hmm.
You had no choices pretty much in what you took.
Yep.
And I didn't like that. So that's why
I don't like that.
I didn't go there.
I'll tell you what, I don't like it. I was talking with a professor back before all this happened, and we were talking about like how weird this major thing is, and it's like, how can you make an 18-year-old decide what they want to do for the rest of their life? Like, and
you can't.
Yeah, that's tough.
You
That's
can't.
really hard.
You can't.
It's insane. Like, I think most people who go to RIT end up sticking with their specialization, but then actually don't end up using it. In whatever job that you get a job real quick out of RIT. That's one of the major reasons I picked RIT.
What's their percentage?
Like, I think 90% in 6 months after
That's
graduation.
pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, which is like insane, especially in the job market that we have
right now.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked something. I picked it. I thought I liked it. I didn't like it because it was like, I still love human-centered design as a concept. It just wasn't the actual major for me. So I'm kind of making my own now a little bit. Yeah.
It's good to be able to change things.
Yeah, it is good. It's good to have some flexibility.
Having that is great.
Yeah, I think a lot of people need to kind of realize that, like, that it's really okay. Like, a lot of your professors that, like, in college, it's crazy how many of them have a degree in something that they're not teaching. Like, there's a lot of them that do, like, that have been very specialized and are on the forefront of their work. and whatnot, and those are great. But a lot of the other teachers, like, they were interested in it, but they didn't major in it. They may have minored in it. Life changes, and like you can change with it. You don't have to lock yourself in. Yeah, and like you said, choice is great.
It is.
That's what's so cool about what we have right now. Like going back, like just covering everything. Like you don't even really have to go to college anymore. You can choose to kind of take a different path. And if you go to college, you can choose what you want to study. It's a great time. It's a scary time, and a stressful time, but it's a great time to be a college student. With that note, we're going to get a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back with another topic.
Today's sponsor is Richardson's Brewery. It's what's on tap. You can find their merch in the link in the description. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Welcome back to the second half of episode 2 of the Hideaway Podcast. I am still here with Andy and JP, and we're going to be switching topics into the recreation that we're all excited about right now.
Are we excited about it?
I mean, yeah, that's very subjective. To give a little bit more context, talking about recreation as in like sports games, and right now is like the peak time for a lot of sports.
Almost
and
all of them.
I'm sure
Almost, except for like
football,
the
football,
NFL.
honestly.
Yeah, we got all the sports going
we
right
play
now.
right
It's
now.
great. Normally,
And
Yeah.
and normally it's great, but as you guys are, as everybody listening to this is well aware, none of that's happening, not now at least. And a lot of that has actually shifted the public interest into online gaming, as well as just online interaction in general as a whole. That's what we've been having to do with Zoom calls. We've been seeing more live streaming. We've been seeing major game releases come out.
You've been seeing a rise in introduction of podcasts.
Podcasts, yeah, I'm sure of it. Like, there's definitely not a reason we started the podcast now or any other time. But you're seeing a lot more people trying to find their recreational outlets in different ways. Like Andy was just telling, you were just telling us before the podcast about, what was it, the baseball
the
Players
MLB
League?
Players League they got going on right now, which essentially is all 30 MLB teams nominated one person, and there's a massive MLB The Show 20 tournament going on right now between all 30 teams.
I think the NBA did something pretty similar with that. They like picked teams, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of sports that have
They're
started
playing
going
2K.
to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have, for the people who don't know, I don't really know much about you MLB The Show. You guys play it
We do
pretty
play.
regularly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, a team picks a player to represent them in the Players League. What are they doing? What are the 30 players?
I mean, they're like, so obviously they're playing another person only, so it's tournament style, and I think they're just going to keep playing. It's single like game elimination. They're just going to keep playing until they have the best MLB The Show player of the 30 teams. What they get out of that, I don't know, but
Obviously, I mean, the teams are different too. We can't take that into. We just can't ignore that. Like, let's say you got somebody controlling the Red Sox, and then you have somebody controlling the Marlins. The Marlins player might be better at MLB The Show, but the Red Sox have a better team on MLB The Show.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. They're rocking their teams there right now, so
yeah.
We'll see. Does that affect it? I don't know. Probably.
I think it does a little bit. Maybe not a lot. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Maybe not a lot, but a little bit.
Maybe. But yeah, so they're playing full 9-inning games. And they're streaming them on like Twitch, YouTube. I saw that MLB's trying to get some
I think
TV.
they're doing some Facebook too.
They're doing that.
honestly.
They're trying to get TV
Yeah.
airtime as well on MLB Network and stuff like that. So, this goes into a conversation Winfield and I have been having for a very long time. And when I mean very long time, I mean a very long time about when is the line going to be blurred between like real sports and esports? Because like right
I'm not
now,
ready for it.
I know,
I'm
neither
not
am I,
ready for
but it seems to be coming faster now. I mean,
we seem to have had
yeah,
it,
it's
especially with the
coming.
NASCAR. Like, have you seen like all the NASCAR drivers? They all have full racing simulation setups, and they're racing like nothing's changed. Like we've hit that blur in the line.
It was always like the conversation that Andy and I have been having is like, when are like what people who in the gaming community consider esports, which are League of Legends, Dota, Rainbow Six, CS:GO, those kinds of games, when are those going to be considered sports? Like, or like when are they all going to be like under one umbrella?
Yeah, maybe.
And
I mean,
yeah, I
it'll
think
take some time.
yeah, that's going to take a lot more time. But like, this is the first huge step where you're seeing all of these people who've been in traditional sports, the ones that you've been seeing for a really long time, starting to migrate over to an online platform or a digital platform just out of sheer necessity. But that kind of gives and brings in an audience that would have never been brought in before.
Well, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Did you know that first NASCAR race that they did online was one of the most viewed events in sports history?
That's pretty crazy.
And it was online. It was
Yeah.
on. I mean, it was on. I think Fox runs it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it just proves that people just want sports right now.
And they'll take any
I
kind
mean,
of
they really
sports.
will. I mean, NASCAR. I've never been particularly interested
they'll
in
literally-
NASCAR,
neither
but they
have
will
I.
take
Neither have I.
anything that they can get, and I think that's a very unique situation that we're in right now, considering usually we have most of the major sports are playing right now.
Yeah, and along with Winfield's point, like about like integrating esports like Rainbow Six Siege, CS:GO, League of Legends into the mainstream, I believe Twitch viewership is at an all-time high right now.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, if you go and look on Twitch, people are getting like 300,000 views on one like stream. It's insane. And I think that's truly bringing it more into the mainstream.
It's legitimizing it.
If that's one good thing coronavirus has done, it's really brought gaming to
a bigger platform.
It
I was
has.
going to say this earlier. I think it's really interesting. It's kind of the first time, and I'm going back to the MLB stuff that they were doing, that I've actually seen people on Twitch streaming Twitch that are like famous people outside of being like a Twitch streamer being famous. Like these people
they're famous for another reason.
Yeah, and then now they're also on top of that, they're streaming on Twitch, which I think is opening up to the possibility in the future of having, oh, you play baseball, or oh, maybe you're like a famous actor or something going in the other direction, but you also stream on Twitch. Like, can get you like that second level of fame and stuff
You
like
remember
that.
Deadmau5, like the EDM
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
been streaming on Twitch for
I'm sure.
a while
Absolutely.
now.
I love watching his streams.
Yeah, he's great.
super cool.
He's got a cool
it's-
setup.
Oh yeah, he's got an amazing
Yeah,
setup.
it's ridiculous.
It's like it's so cool. It's really interesting. Like, you bring up the celebrity streaming, and like also this like the idea of legitimization. Like, I think it's not only legitimizing Twitch streamers, but it's legitimizing online content creation as a whole.
Yes, as a profession. Which is definitely going back to the traditional versus non-traditional. It's a very non-traditional platform.
Oh yeah, like all the people who are like I think the word YouTuber, if you went back probably 5 years ago, if you said I'm a YouTuber, people would look at you kind of funny, and they still kind of look at you funny now.
But they understand.
But there's a
what it is.
legitimacy that has been created.
Yeah, and it's super cool to see that. And then going on to the celebrities, like, usually when celebrities join an online platform, like you see Will Smith make a YouTube channel and all that kind of
They
stuff.
get featured in YouTube
In
Rewind.
2018, yeah, it was the
People aren't really that happy about it. I think for a really long time, Twitch and YouTube have been these kind of like walled gardens of like counterculture, almost in a weird way.
Counterculture, just it's like a different tier
Subculture.
of culture, off the beaten path type of culture.
Yeah, exactly. And it, like, I think that's exactly. It's just like, it's almost like this weird like offshoot, and people were very comfortable in having that. But now you see celebrities joining, and like, so like going back to like Will Smith and like all that kind of stuff, people weren't really happy. Like, they were excited for Will Smith, but then when he was put in YouTube Rewind, people were not happy at all.
Because you don't consider them him in a specific term. You don't consider him a YouTuber. Like usually you define the person as like what they're most famous for, defines them as like what they
But
are.
with what we're going
You might have a chance of saying, oh, this guy's a baseball player, but oh yeah, he streams on Twitch at night. Like you got a chance to like to double up, and I mean, any profession or any famous person in that right could do that as well.
Yeah, and it's easy. I think it's easier on Twitch because it's not really like made content, like it's not curated content.
No, it's really
more raw.
authentic. I think is a thing that people
can
are looking
interact
for as well. I mean,
People
yeah,
wanna
there's a lot of interaction
with their
too,
favorite people,
which is kind of cool in a way that you would not be able to interact with the person.
correct. Yeah, because if
5-10
you're out
years
there on the
ago.
baseball field, sitting in the outfield, yeah, you can hear them clap for you, but you can't really like interact with individuals.
Exactly.
Sometimes they may like steal your nacho or something like that if you're like close enough.
see
Yeah,
Winfield-
they
yeah.
lean over to catch
Yeah.
a foul.
Yeah.
yeah. But like it's just nearly one-on-one. It's not near one-on-one, but it feels
It
like
feels
but it,
very
it can
personal.
feel like.
I mean, it feels
yeah.
personal,
Yeah.
which is definitely something that fans or anybody like wants.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see who stays after all this, and it'll be also really interesting to see what precedent it sets. Like, are we gonna see more sports stars and just more stars in general feel forced to have their own Twitch stream and like be streaming all the time? And like, will that change who is considered popular?
I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
I think
feel
it
like
will, honestly.
I think the
Yeah.
next generation, obviously, we are the generation I guess behind us. I think they're alphas. Like
Alpha. What?
yeah, that's what they are.
Yeah, we've rolled
Are
over.
yeah,
you
we
kidding me?
rolled
They've
over.
named a generation Alpha?
Yeah, we rolled
Yeah.
over. So
Oh my god.
But like when all of us were growing up, or at least for me personally, like, I always looked up like sports stars and stuff like that. Like those are the people like I idolized. I think with the alpha generation, there's definitely a possibility that they like look up to streamers or to YouTubers or people that are not in like that like mainstream media that we were talking about earlier.
It's already happening.
I mean, it really
honestly.
is, and I think that
Yeah, that's what it was like for me, honestly. Like, I don't really like. I looked up to like Kane and Taze, right? Like, because he had to as a Chicagoan.
absolutely.
Like, there was no way to not look up to Kane and Taze.
Nowadays, you kind of regret those decisions.
It's like me regretting my
Crawford.
decision to look up to Tom Brady right now.
Yeah.
JP's gonna become a Buccaneers fan. Just get
That's
ready for
absolutely not going to happen.
it. We'll wait for
And
it.
so, but like for the most part, like I grew up on YouTube. Like I was kind of a little too ahead of my time in this respect.
I
like,
think I'm very similar to you in that regard.
yeah, like I was watching. If any of the listeners are familiar with the YouTuber Phil DeFranco, I think JP, you know him, right?
I've been watching him for years.
Yeah, I've been watching him. My mom just and I calculated this. I've been watching him for now over, I think, 12 or 13
Wow.
years.
Oh my! I'm at
That's a
like
lot.
I think like 10 years. Holy smokes!
That's even
Yeah,
still a
and
lot.
Yeah, and like so I met him in 2013 when he came into Chicago, and I'm looking at the poster right now. But my mom, this is like my birthday present. I got to meet him at like this VIP signing, and so this 13-year-old it comes up to him, and I go, "Yeah, I've been watching you since 2008," and he pulls me aside, and like he goes, "How long have you been watching me?" And I go, "Yeah, since 2008." He goes, "You're how old?" And I'm like, "Yeah, 13." And
That's pretty crazy.
he seemed kind of awestruck because like if any of you know his original content, it was not children friendly at
Not at all.
Like he admits it himself, he was a little bit of a douchebag.
It's still arguably not child friendly.
Oh yeah. Oh, nowadays it's not child friendly, but it's taken a whole different tone.
It
where
is,
it's
yeah.
news. It's no longer like a bro talking about. I just got a text from Philip DeFranco. I'm
You have his
on a
number?
mailing
What?
list. I'm on a mailing list. You can.
Oh, that's not a
Oh,
text.
That's not the
Oh,
same.
that's-
Get out of here. We all thought he was cool for a minute there.
No, you can. No, you can actually. You can. That's one of the cool things that he's actually done. I say he's at the forefront of like fan interaction. You can add this number to your phone, and you can actually send him text messages, and he'll get them, and he can reply to them too.
If he wants to.
Yeah, and
Okay.
he has. I think he replied to me at the very beginning when he was first starting this system a couple months ago. And it's just like the next generation, you're right, Andy, is going to be a whole bunch of people like me who, instead of looking at, like, sure, they're going to have their sports idols and whatnot. That's never really going to
Yeah,
go
no.
away. But the main people.
There's gonna be a second layer of
Well,
in
it's
like-
going to be acceptable to have something other than sports
Exactly.
idols. Because if you were a kid when I was like 12 and 13, if I ever said I liked a certain type of YouTuber, people would be like, "Who?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
what? Like
Yeah, like
you're a
Ryan
weirdo,
Higa.
dude."
Yeah.
But now if you say like, "Oh, I like insert X YouTuber here," like people are like, "Oh, that's cool. I
Yeah.
like him too." It's becoming the same thing as
It's
recognizing a
becoming
cool
more
sports player.
common culture. And
It
I
is.
think that it's definitely grown in the past like 5 years.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You talk about like the big one everyone knows, and I just said it. But Ninja, Tyler Blevins.
I was going to
Dude,
avoid saying
Yeah.
Ninja, but hey, we went
Dude.
there. We went there.
Yeah.
You put Ninja. You talk about Ninja, so you can put Ninja in the tags.
Oh, of course.
So,
yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. No, but seriously, he's been like the one who's kind of stepped into the mainstream.
Really has.
He has become the mainstream.
He's very good with kids, and that
Yeah.
is brilliant for him. Like, he has become a
idolize
platform
him.
for children, or children to teens. You get what I'm talking about.
Yeah. He is like the modern equivalent of a rock star.
And he's really smart about it too. Like, he knows his target market, he knows his audience, and he hits it right on the head every time.
Yeah, and you could see it when he was first like he wasn't like, before he was like super popular, he was still swearing and all that kind of stuff. But as he started to realize who was watching him, he does not swear except for a couple times, which were not really that smart of him. But he doesn't swear. He's very good at business. And I know you guys are going to make fun of me speaking of business streamers, but Pokimane is also amazing.
I'm gonna make fun of you a
marketing.
little bit for that one.
I know you are, but she like, I don't watch her at all, but the way that she's handled her business as a whole is like, it's genius. Like, she knows what her audience is, knows the target market, and has dived into that market headfirst, and just is able to make a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, they're not in the business of playing whatever video games they're playing. They're honestly in the business of marketing themselves.
Entertainment.
I mean,
It's
that
literally
marketing themselves.
entertainment.
If you can
Yeah.
market yourself in the light, like any of those guys have, it's
We're entering the point where these Twitch streamers, they will be making more money per year than your average MLB player.
It's yeah.
Shady,
It's-
I know
dude,
I know you don't believe that.
I know you don't want to believe
You're
it.
wrong.
I know you
I
don't
know you
want
don't want to
Very
believe that.
wrong.
But I'm gonna go get you some figures right about now.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you're
Dude,
wrong.
For Shroud's
Some-
stream.
Have
Sure, you
seen,
have
yeah.
some outliers like Shroud and Ninja.
No, I'm
and
saying
stuff
they're
like that.
becoming. It's like we're on the way up. It's not like the average Twitch streamer is not making as much as the average MLB player. But I'm saying some of the top Twitch streamers that literally get to sit in their room all day and play video games and just record it on the internet.
Some of them
are
don't even
making
have to play
more-
video games anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
they
they
Oh
can
yeah,
just
they're
talk.
just
yeah.
chatting.
But they can make more money than your average MLB player easily.
I know you don't want to believe it, Andy.
Which one's your-
I can.
I
can
disagree.
feel it. I can
the
feel-
average. I mean, if you're looking at
The average
if you're looking at
MLB
arbitration,
salary,
if you're looking at arbitration salary, which is the combined total of the top 125 MLB players, I believe, which I don't know what those figures are this year, but
I
the
have
vast
it if you
majority of
want to know.
streamers are not even close to that number. Obviously, you're gonna have your outliers like Shroud
obviously the vast
or
majority isn't.
Summit or any of those guys that are just cranking
Well, think
out
about
money.
it this way: you have the minor leagues.
Oh my god! And
Which
I
is
could
the
make more money in the
majority-
minor leagues by
No, yeah.
doing
but think about it.
anything.
We'll take the idea of the minor leagues and major leagues, and transfer it over to Twitch. You have people
That's
like
true. Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Pokimane and Shroud, and
Summit,
Summit and
G,
Ninja and all those
Summit,
guys.
Ninja, and all those people. They're major
agree.
league streamers. And you have all the other streamers like King George, and all the esports players are definitely in them. They're in their pro league, but in streaming
Oh,
regards,
they're in
It's minor
AAA.
league.
They're
yeah.
in AAA,
The-
and then
yeah,
you
yeah,
got
they're in
Yeah.
triple.
you
A, yeah.
have some other
But-
people in AA. But yeah.
The major leaguers themselves make a ton, like an inordinate amount of
But there are so
money.
few of them, though, and that is the thing I'm talking about.
There's really not.
that-
That's the thing. That's where you think there's so few of them because you don't watch a lot of them.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch League of Legends, for example?
I mean, there's always a chance of that. I don't know how. What's the money mark that we're going to declare that is the difference between the minor league and the major league?
I don't even know. It's like the thing is, it's such a widely variant market
really
at the
is.
moment.
All right, so I just did some quick math. The average MLB player, like not AAA, Major League Baseball, makes around $4 million a year.
Is that
If we take
Is that arbitration or is that an average?
It's just an average.
Does that include league minimum?
It includes every single player in the majors. We don't count AAA. We don't count AA.
Are we including 40 man?
Yes,
Yeah, just
So-
every player.
every player. The
40
average,
man, not really then, because
but
40
they're
man
in the major leagues. Shady,
They are.
they are.
Really,
I know
but
you don't
alright.
agree with
They're
that,
on-
but
are
they
they
are.
on an
This
MLB
is a
team, Andy?
it's a stretched. It's a
They
stretch.
make about
Let's hear it.
$4 million a year
Sure.
on average.
Throw it out.
If you want to raise it up, 5 million. Okay.
Fine, we can
Like-
go 5 or 6 million. You know how much Summit 1G makes
I'm sure
a month
Summit makes a
based off of
absolute boatload
based
of
off
money.
of subscriptions alone?
and Twitch
He makes-
Prime helps them even more.
Yeah, he makes close to like 400 grand
Oh,
a
I'm
month
sure he
just
does.
off of subscriptions. That's not off of ad revenue and donations.
Sponsorship, branding deals.
And he's not even the top earner. He's not even close to the top earner.
It's crazy how much money is in there. That's why you see so many people doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the market is so saturated. But
And it's
you
also it's
have
free to join, which is also
grind.
huge. I mean, think about becoming a
Yeah.
baseball player. You have to dedicate your life to it. You got to go through the minor leagues. You got to then
Mhm.
become the major leagues, and
I
then you got to be.
Not even
Go
that.
to the
you have
major
to start when
leagues.
you're 5 years
I
old.
mean, that
pretty
too.
much.
I
You
mean,
got
at this
no other
point-
shot.
At this
Yeah.
point, we could start with a webcam, Streamlabs.
And maybe a $600 PC, maybe.
Like you could be streaming in a matter of hours, and obviously it'll take time to gain popularity, and you have to distinguish yourself between other people. But it's an easier
it's a lot
entry
less
level than it would
time-consuming.
be, and you
and
can
it
kind
makes
of
a lot of money as well.
that,
if
and you
can
can
be
also
good
you
at
can do it at any age as well. You don't have to be
Yep.
specifically young or
Yeah,
old.
you have to be older than 13.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, well, pretty much any age for anybody that's listening to this, I hope.
Moral of today's episode is you can do whatever you want to do as long as you're above 13 years old.
And except for drive a car, buy alcohol, do drugs. None of that. None of that.
Professional
You
wise.
can be a minister. You can be a minister. I was a minister at the age of 13.
Were you
and
actually a
still am.
minister?
Yeah, I've seen the
Yeah,
certificate
I am.
Oh my god! How did you manage to get that?
online.
Oh, it's
He
easy.
did it online. Are you kidding?
Universal Life
You
Church.
just took an.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
god!
It's you enter in your name, address, and then you check a button that says, "Are you over 13 years old?"
Congrats,
And
You
you're a
can
then-
minister.
legally marry people now.
Yeah, I'll officiate your wedding.
You are not
JP.
officiating my wedding. That would, oh my
Disclaimer:
God.
JP is not engaged yet, but he will be eventually soon. Sooner than the rest of us.
Well,
hopefully.
not yeah. Sooner than you two sitting here, but
I hope to God you are engaged before I.
you'd have to rush into that shockingly fast.
yeah.
Anyways,
But
Yeah.
yeah,
we got off
it's-
track
it-
a little bit, but
a
that's
little
okay.
bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a wild market, and I think we're gonna see a shift towards like this is gonna start reaching out into older generations that were not as inclined to get their content online. It's pulling people in, and I think not everyone's gonna stick, right? Like you're not gonna keep everybody.
Of course not.
You
I mean,
watch
you can't
that
expect
No,
it
it's
to
still
be
not.
like-
I mean, it's not going to prevent people from trying though, which is a really important thing.
Yeah, it just gives that huge boost and that huge opportunity to those who can take advantage of it, like the Shrouds and the Pokemanes and the Whoozy Whatsits
The
and
ninjas of the world.
the ninjas. Those people who have the business savvy and the marketing capability are going to make out of this so well.
And the companies and stuff that jump on this ship early, similar to like how like 10 years ago like social media was really taking off. the companies that jump on the ship early will also probably find it very valuable. to
Some
do.
Yeah.
sank MySpace, but we'll let that one
Let
go.
that one go.
Yeah, I mean everyone did, thankfully.
Yeah.
But
oh my
I think
gosh.
that's a
that
good
took me a
that's a
little
good
while.
place.
It took me too long.
That's a good place to, I think, end off today. Thank you for listening to the second episode of the Hideaway Podcast. We're now available basically everywhere but Apple Podcasts for right now. We're still trying to figure out the distributing for it. You can find us on Twitter at Hideaway Podcast. Again, that's Twitter at Hideaway Podcast. Or you could follow us direct. All our socials are going to be linked down below in the description. Thank you again for listening. My name is Winfield. I've been joined by Andy and JP. Hope to see you next week.
Thank you for watching or listening, because you can't watch this, but listening.